On this episode of the Rock Down South podcast, we chat with country artist Kristen Kelly. She's a super talented singer and songwriter, and she plays a couple of acoustic songs for us. We hope you all enjoy. Let's go. Welcome to the Rock Down South podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the show today. I'm Mark, and my friends and I created this podcast to focus exclusively on music interviews we do. We hope you all enjoy this interview we did with country artist Kristen Kelly. Like I mentioned before, she's a super talented singer and songwriter, and she has quite the impressive resume to back it up. Couple of examples. She's actually played the Grand Ole Opry and was also on CMT's Next Women of Country list. She's also toured with massive acts such as Brad Paisley, Rascal Flatts, Alan Jackson, Sheryl Crow, Willie Nelson, Dierks, Bentley, and Owen. We have a really fun chat. We talk about her career thus far and her latest EP project, Something Worth Saying Part 1. And of course, we talk rock music, favorite adult beverages, and she tells us a couple of fun stories as well. So without further ado, here's the interview. All right, Kristen, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's get into things a little bit. I know you're originally from Texas, right?
I am from Lorena, Texas, which is 10 minutes south of Waco, halfway between Austin and Dallas.
Okay. And how long have you been in Nashville now?
I have been in Nashville since 2010.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Have you moved back to Texas, or do you just miss it all the time?
I haven't moved back. I do miss it, but I also get back to Texas to play, sometimes not as often as I'd like, but I'll be down there this weekend, which I'm excited about.
Oh, nice. Well, so let's chat about your latest EP release, Something Worth Saying. I know it charted pretty high on the iTunes chart when it first came out, and you have the single Rich Folks. Tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, Something Worth Saying Part 1 is the first project that I've released since 2015. And it's pretty crazy. Essentially, I didn't make a huge push that I was going to be releasing it. I just kind of nonchalantly put it out there. Hey, I'm releasing new music. And then when it came out on February 9th, it went all the way to the top 10 on the country iTunes chart. I know it was at 9 at one point, and somebody said it made it to number 8. And then it was even charting on all genres, which is crazy, to not have released music since 2015 or a project since 2015. And I'm completely independent. I don't have a huge record label behind me. I don't have a huge promo staff helping me push everything. And so that was kind of mind blowing and exciting. And it was like, wow, all right, cool.
I bet that felt pretty good. Now, how long had you been working on this release? Was this many, many years in the making, or did you kind of just get a burst of creativity and put some stuff together?
Well, to be honest, I started dating a guy in 2015. We got married in 2016. And for, those few years, I was working several jobs and just trying to keep up financially with being married and being the only one in the house, essentially working, if you will. Sad thing about it is you can't help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves. And I hope nothing but the best for him. But it finally got to a point where I had to reevaluate putting a lot of time and effort into something that, I'm the only one putting time and effort into. And so long story short, I got divorced, filed for divorce in 2019. And last year, I in 2020, I got back to being me again and focusing more on me and my music. And some of the songs are songs that I had written over the years, and some of them are songs that are new. And Rich Folks is a song that I actually did not write. It's an outside cut that was written by my friends Kyle Coulahan, Russell Sutton, and Troy Walls. And Troy is part of a duo called Carvin Walls. So essentially within the last year is when I kind of started really putting feet on the pavement and getting back to work. and recording and writing and getting ready to release all of this.
That's fantastic. And I did hear a little bit of that story on, I think, some of your previous interviews that I listened to. And that's one of the things that I kind of liked about your story and you, Kristen, is that determination to kind of get back up on the saddle and that you don't give up. You had this terrific early success, but I know you stepped back for a little while. But now I know you're back with new music, that it's obvious that you put blood, sweat, and tears into this music. So that's something that I think is really awesome.
Thank you, Mark. I'm having a day, and just those kind words really mean a lot. Thank you.
No, it's good. I admire people that don't give up. And those are the stories that people like to hear at the end of the day.
Thank you.
So obviously you said this is a part one of the EP.
Yeah,
So obviously there's probably going to be a part two coming at some point, right?
there is. I've already got some songs picked out. One of them being Something Worth Saying, which is the title track. And it's a song that I wrote with my buddy Blue Foley and our friend, the late Randall Clay. And it's crazy because that song, it's taken on a whole new life outside of just being a song that I'm a co-writer on. It's the title track of the project. I was encouraged last year to start a writers round here in Nashville, and I've called the writers round Something Worth Saying, and I'm launching a podcast.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's called Something Worth Saying. And so it's fun to watch a little song idea that became a song and is now the title track of my project, become something bigger than itself, if you will. But when you think about Something Worth Saying on a broader scale of it just being a piece of art, so many people have something worth saying. And it's a matter of taking the time to pull that truth out of somebody, whether it be on a stage at a writer's round or whether it be behind a microphone through a podcast. So many people have something worth saying, and it's just a matter of taking the time to pull that out of them, and also utilize whatever platform it is that I have to give a voice to that truth that folks out there have to share.
Got a little serious question here. How close are you to tattooing Something Worth Saying on your body?
I haven't really thought about getting something worth saying, but I might incorporate those words into another tattoo. But that's a really great idea. Nobody's asked me that question.
I did not have it written down. It came to me, I promise. Well, cool. So let's talk about your sound. I listened to the latest EP and I really, really dug it. I know you're not trying to go for that super modern pop country sound at all.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about the sound and what kind of influenced that sound.
The sound for my project, Something Worth Saying, and I feel like for all bodies of work that I have recorded over the years, I try to stay true to who I am, first of all. And then second of all, I'm influenced by so many different styles of music, be it country, from the roots of my grandfather being a country singer-songwriter, to classic rock, falling in love with all of that kind of music, riding around with my dad or following him around in the shop, or being in a classic rock cover band for 3 years. And then, also somewhere along the way, I fell in love with the blues. And I just have felt a gravitational pull creatively towards a sound that is unrefined, if you will. I love pop music. I love pretty and polished sounds, but sonically, what resonates with me more is a more raw and edgy sound. And I guess that can be heard in my music.
Absolutely. So, Kristen, I heard you on another podcast give a quick little story about you auditioning for one of the popular talent shows and singing one of your original songs. Can you tell us that story real quick?
Yeah. A few years ago, there was a TV show. I can't even remember the name of it. It was a newer show, and I was auditioning, And they asked me to sing an original song, and I sang He Loves to Make Me Cry, which is a song that I wrote with Even Stevens and Paul Overstreet. And whenever I got done, they looked at me and they're like, "You wrote that?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Okay, who performs it?" And I said, "I do." and and they said, "All right, well, we've had a lot of people audition with your song today," which blew my mind because I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I didn't get picked to be on the show, but that was a really cool and surreal moment.
I wonder if anybody got picked on the show that did sing your song. That'd be interesting.
I don't know. That's a good question.
That's funny. So here's a question I'm interested in, because I know you toured with a lot of big name folks back in the day. Who's your favorite big artist to tour with and why?
That's a tough one to nail down because there's something really cool about everybody that you get to tour with. A fun thing on the Paisley tour was every weekend Brad would do something different for everybody on tour. Like one weekend he took everybody bowling, and then another weekend we went to like this little mini amusement park, and we went to see Avengers movie, just all kinds of stuff. We had a margarita and cigar party one weekend, and that was a lot of fun. There was always something to do each weekend. But there's a lot of fun stuff for every other tour that I was on as well. And it wasn't necessarily that we did something every weekend collectively as a tour, but just the camaraderie and getting to know everybody as the tour progressed was a lot of fun as well.
That's pretty cool. So here's an interesting question. What is the worst show that you ever played? Maybe it was a bad performance you did, maybe a bad crowd, small crowd, or maybe just a weird venue. But what kind of comes to mind when I say that?
That's tough. I don't know if there's ever been a time where I've walked away and been like, man, that sucked. Um,
Or maybe a mistake that happened on stage that you laugh at now.
oh my God. There have been times where I've busted my tooth on the microphone. Like if you look real closely and real hard at my two front teeth, you can see all these little imperfections on the bottom of them where I've chipped my teeth from turning around and banging into the microphone. That or like there have been times where I've worn high heels on stage, and you get your heel stuck in a hole or a crack, or you almost trip and fall flat on your face. There is one time where I had a bit too much of the alcoholic beverages and it wasn't my best performance, and I felt terrible about it. And I have tried to make a point where that never happens again. Cause I'm really grateful to be able to do something that I love. And I felt like I not only disappointed myself, and everybody around me was like, no, you were fine. It was at the end. Like you were having a good time. Don't worry about it. But I still I feel that's one of the things that I want to kick myself in the rear for.
Well, maybe everybody else was having too good of a time as well, and they just enjoyed it.
That's basically what everybody said. But I was like, no, I feel bad.
So speaking of music, this is obviously the Rock Down South podcast. We're all big rockers who love rock music. We also love country music. So let's kind of take a step back maybe from country music. Let's talk rock music. We all listen to a wide variety from classic rock to heavy metal to 80s rock. I mean, I'm wearing a Poison t-shirt right now.
Yeah.
What do you usually like to listen to rock wise? And then what are you listening to lately? So kind of two questions there. What were you grew up with, really enjoyed, maybe those classic sounds, and then are you listening to anything kind of newer lately?
Yeah, growing up, I listened to Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles and Bob Seger and Bad Company. And gosh, I could go on and on and on. And then lately, some of the music that I've listened to varies from James Bay to Lake Street Dive. There's a band called Bishop Gunn, and I mean, all kinds of stuff. I'm constantly being introduced to new music, and I constantly fall in love with new music. um, but yeah, those are some of the staples that I grew up listening to, and some of the things that I've listened to recently as well.
I was not familiar with those people that you just named out for recent music. Are those more alternative kind of rock? What are their sounds?
Lake Street Dive is more alternative, if you will.
Okay.
And then Bishop Gunn is like Southern rock. And then James Bay, man, he's really, really talented, and he's alternative as well.
Do you like Need to Breathe?
Yeah, they're great.
Talking a little bit more alternative. They're kind of all over the place. A little bit more alternative. They get some Southern rock in them.
I mean, I grew up listening to Matchbox 20. Oh my gosh. And, that whole alternative movement of the 90s, Oasis, and man, gosh, now my wheels are spinning and I want to go back and listen to all this music that I listened to.
All that 90s stuff, all the good 90s alternative kind of music. Well, very cool. Very cool. So what do you like to listen to when you're wanting to get pumped up, when you're wanting to get aggressive and maybe go to the gym or something, or sprint?
I have a playlist that kind of has a little bit of everything, but I'll listen to some Kelly Clarkson. I'll listen to some Lake Street Dive. I'll listen to some Texas country. It just depends on my mood and what I'm feeling. And, if there's something that I haven't listened to in a while, and I'll think, ooh, I want to go back and jam that out,
Of course, of course. All right, Kristen, I think you're going to play us a couple tunes, right?
Yeah, sure am. So I'll play you all the title track of my project that I've been working on. And this song is actually going to be on Something Worth Saying Part 2. It's an idea that I brought to the table and I wrote with my buddies Blue Foley and our buddy, the late Randall Clay. It's called Something Worth Saying. Come around the kind of company that was good to keep. And I learned awful early to always say just what I mean. In a world that's trying to turn you into someone else, well, I found a way to be okay with being myself. That's easier said than done. Being someone worth knowing is more important than being well known. Having someone worth holding means so much more than always having someone to hold. Sunday ain't the only day for praying. I just pray someday that I hear someone say they heard me say something worth saying. I try to live by doing what I know to be right. So when I get to go to heaven, I can look the good Lord in the eye. And that's how I feel about these songs that I play. You won't catch me singing something that you wouldn't hear me say. That's easier said than done. Sunday ain't the only day for praying. I just pray someday that I hear someone say they heard me say something worth saying. There's love in everything if you just look close enough. No word to hold on to and words to let go of. Give the forgiveness you've been given and never give up. You got something to say, go on and say it. Don't spend your life sitting around waiting for someone to say something worth saying.
I really like that song. That was fun.
Thank you.
Well, cool. I think you said you got another one for us, right?
Yeah, I'll play Rich Folks for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a song called Rich Folks. I wonder what the rich folks are doing tonight, because you ain't got to have a lot of money to feel rich as hell. Billy Shane smoking while he's dumping his change in the video poker machine. The felts won't offer, but the table's wide open if you don't mind a little laughing. Them swinging doors are sitting on the floor like something out the Wild Wild West. The beer's ice cold, the whiskey's cheap, and everybody's got a remedy. And it's pouring on a tin roof underneath the neon lights. On the front porch with a double wide view and the pouring the riot. Yeah, I wonder what the rich folks are doing tonight. Hey! The jukebox broke a long time ago, but Buddy went and bought a 6-string. It's way out of tune, but after a few, it sounds pretty good to me. There ain't no top shelf, we're all drinking wells, closing out for $20 or less. And in the cut-off tee with holes in your jeans, you're probably still overdressed. And it's pouring on a tin roof underneath the neon lights. On the front porch with a double wide view and the pouring a riot. Yeah, I wonder what the rich folks are doing tonight. Hey! There's no champagne, no fruit in the drinks, no money, no problems at all. Just come on in, y'all, we're all friends at this poor man's hole in the wall. And it's pouring on a tin roof underneath the neon lights. On the front porch with a double wide view and the pouring a riot. Yeah, I wonder what the rich folks are doing tonight while it's pouring on a tin roof underneath the neon lights. On the front porch with a double wide view and the pouring a riot. Yeah, I wonder what the rich folks are doing tonight. Yeah, I wonder what the rich folks are doing tonight.
All right, Rich Folks, the latest single by Kristen Kelly. You guys heard it here live. That was awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now back to the interview. So the next questions are what we close with and ask everyone. So first question, what would you tell your 21-year-old self?
This one's I would tell my 21-year-old self to keep dreaming and never give up. Because, there's going to be times where it's going to be hard. And there's also going to be times when it's really great and really beautiful. And the good Lord doesn't send you through the valley if he's not preparing you for the mountaintop that's on the other side, So I would tell my 21-year-old self and anybody else out there chasing any kind of a dream, it's not always going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it.
Thank you so much. That was a really, really good answer. So for something maybe a little bit lighter, what are you drinking lately? And if you don't drink alcohol, maybe anything refreshing that you enjoy to drink.
I try to drink a lot of water, but I've been on a bit of a champagne campaign for a few years. I don't drink every day, but I have tended to drink champagne. But there's a drink called ranch water, and it's a seltzer, and it's made with 100% agave nectar and natural lime juice. And it's just really clean and crisp and really good. And they have 4 different flavors. They have a spicy flavor, which is really great to add into a Bloody Mary. And then they have the Rio Red grapefruit. And then they just came out with a prickly pear flavor, I think. I haven't had that one yet, but I've had all 3 of the other ones. And I really am loving me some ranch water.
I'm going to have to try some of this ranch water out. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's great. I just celebrated my birthday, and a girlfriend of mine, our birthdays are a day apart, and she loves her some ranch water too. And so I got surprised. We went to have supper, and afterwards we went to Losers here in Nashville, and I didn't know it, but there in the back room, a lot of my friends and family and like friends who are family, were in the back, and there was this huge cake, and it looks like a big ranch water can, it was amazing.
That's too cool. So as you know, this is the Rock Down South podcast. So what is something that you love about the South? Or it could be many things that come to your mind. Just blurt them out.
Folks down south know how to have a good time. Folks down south know how to cook some food. Folks down south, they create a lot of great music. Folks down south are honestly my kind of people. I'm from Texas, so you can take the girl out of Texas, but you can't take the South out of the girl.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for being a part of the podcast today. Where can people find and connect with you online? And what do you have in the works that people should know about?
You can find me. My website is kristenkellymusic.com. That's KRISTENKELLY music.com. And I'm on Instagram. It's at Kristen Kelly Music on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I got a TikTok. I still don't really know how to TikTok it up, but I got a TikTok, and you can pretty much find me on all, social media platforms. And then you can find my music on all digital platforms. And I released my Something Worth Saying Part 1 on February 9th of 2021. And we're working on Something Worth Saying Part 2, the back half of that project. And if you're ever in Nashville and you want to catch a songwriters round, I host a once a month writers round at Live Oak on Demumbrian in Midtown. And the round is called Something Worth Saying. And again, it's a once a month thing, and it's on a Tuesday night. And I'm about to be launching my podcast called Something Worth Saying. And that's going to be a place for folks, not just musicians and songwriters, to share their truth, but I'm going to have some guests that aren't necessarily in the music industry, but have some really great stories to tell and some pretty awesome truth to share. And I'm excited about that.
Thank you so much for listening to the show today. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We had a really fun time chatting with Kristen. She's such a super nice person and a really fantastic musician. And of course, those songs were great that she played. I'm so glad that she's putting out music again, and I cannot wait to hear more from her. Make sure to follow Kristen on all of her social media pages and give her latest EP, Something Worth Saying Part 1, a listen. Check out all our content at rockdownsouth.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest updates. And as always, the views and opinions expressed by our guests on the podcast are theirs and don't necessarily reflect our own. I'm your host, Mark, and you have been listening to the Rock Down South podcast. See y'all next time.